Hey everyone, BBQ Kyle here. Today I'm going to show you how to make this villager trading post. Inside it are 38 stalls with 38 villagers ready to make a trade. And if you don't like the trade that they're given, just kill them and another one will come in. So what I've done to start is just lay out the floor. The wood area is 21 by 21 and then it has a stone ring around it. And now what I've done is laid out my stalls. So every one of these is going to be a little trading pod. I left this one wider because this will be the entrance. And in each one of these, there'll be a villager ready to trade. So this is the inside of the pod. Top is open, just a one by one chute going down to the floor. All you need to do to build it, build out an outline like this, leaving this top space open. And then fill in behind like this. You can actually just take these out. We don't need them. And one there. There you go. Got to do that all the way around. So here we go. All the pods have been built. I have this ring going around the outside because that's where the rail is going to go. And I put slabs over the entrance just because rail has to go on there and I didn't want to make it only too tall. Matter of fact, let's get rid of this. I'll put some slabs in here. Now inside each stall, in the back, I'm going to put a pressure plate. And in the front, a redstone lamp. Now that I have the pressure plates and lamps in each pod, I've decided that I want the loading area to be in the back here. So this is where my rail is going to start. I'm going to take out this part of the rail support ring, I guess you could call it. And before my first pod, I'm going to put a detector rail, a power rail, then an activator rail, and then regular rail, and I'm going to continue that all the way down each side. Make sure when you're placing your rail that before the pod, you place your detector rail. Right next to the pod goes the power rail, and then after the pod, your activator rail. This pod here will be filled by another set of rails, so we're just going to do a regular rail and then continue with the pattern. When you get to a corner or any break, make sure that there's 3 pieces of regular rail, then a power rail, behind your next piece of detector rail. This will make sure that the timing stays accurate. And another note about this power rail, when the cart comes this way and it hits this detector rail, that will power this power rail, so there's really no need for any redstone or a torch to be here to power it. Now that the first ring of rail is done, we're going to build up the pods a little bit. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and we're going to do that all the way around. Now what I've done here is place a torch here, and I've left the block out. It's not really going to affect anything. I just needed to power this rail. You could put redstone underneath if you want, or make this block redstone, whatever you'd like to do. But just moving one block out of the way for a torch isn't really going to affect anything. Just always put the torches for these power rails on the inside of the rail. Don't put it on the outside. It's going to affect all the other redstone. Alright, now that we've built all the chutes, what we're going to do is build the next layer of stone, which if a chute has a power rail in front of it, go ahead and cap it off. If it has a regular rail in front of it, build behind. So it should be 1, 2, 3 on top, 1 behind. 1, 2, 3 on top, 1 behind. Now it's time to build the platform for the second ring of rail. What we're going to do is stone above every power rail. We want to put a slab, and then stone, and then power rail, slab. Make sure it's on top. And then stone down to the next one, and just continue this pattern. So as you can see, as I did down below, I've connected the corners except for right here where the rail will start and end. And since I went clockwise down here, I went counterclockwise down here, I'm going to go clockwise on the top rail. So it's the same as before, just in another direction. Before the pod, detector rail, power rail, activator rail, regular rail. And just continue that all the way around. Now that our upper rail's in place, we need to connect the two. So I'm going to come down here to our lower rail where it's going to end. Come out like this. And just sort of build up to it. It doesn't have to be anything fancy. Now by doing the rails like this, you can place a torch underneath. That'll power that set. And one under here will power this one. Now that this section of rail is completed, it's time to extend the chutes once again. So once again, we're going to go 1, 2, 3, up, and then back here, and just continue that all the way around. Now, before we go any further into this, I do want to say a quick word about putting on a roof. I think it's a decorative phase, and we're not quite there to the decoration point yet. But above each of these power rails, there needs to be 3.5 blocks of space. Now we need to grab a transparent block. I'm using just plain old glass. And to each side of each power rail, just the ones in front of the chute, not the ones that are at the corners, but just the ones in front of the chute, we need 3 pieces of glass in each direction above the rail, but leave the space above the power rail empty. So now the reason for this glass and the 3.5 blocks is as the minecart takes the villager through, as soon as it touches this activator rail, not on it, but as soon as it touches it, the villager is going to pop out, and the goal is to have the cart move away before the villager comes down and lands in the cart. If he doesn't have this 3.5 blocks of space, he's going to go up, hit his head on the roof, fall back down to the cart, and keep going. So by having this 3.5 blocks of space, it's going to make sure he lands. He actually does hop out of the cart, and this glass is going to make sure he lands here. Now, when the villager's head goes through the glass, it's not going to hurt him. But if we use the solid stone, he'd be taking damage as long as he's going down the rail. So this is what the redstone will look like when it's done. We're going to build it on this wall over here. Starting at the bottom, I'm just going to do these 2 pods, and then you just repeat the pattern all the way down. At the first one, where we have a power rail, place blocks like that. Redstone on top of the lower one. And then redstone here. Torch there. Torch there. This redstone here connects to the pressure plate in this pod. So what we're going to do is build a little redstone elevator. That comes up. And then controls this activator rail. So as soon as a villager is in here, he'll activate the pressure plate, which will turn off this activator rail. Now from the detector rail, we're going to build out and up. Get rid of these 2. We're going to put a redstone repeater here set to 4 ticks. And a torch here. I'm going to build a little L shape like this. Place a torch here. Run redstone along the top of it. In front of it, place a piston. And on top, or in front of it, place a block. Back down here, in front of this block, going to build a little stair shape thing. On these 2, we're going to place redstone dust. And on this one, a redstone torch. So if you've seen my logic gates video, you know what we just built right here is an AND gate. This basically means that when a card is here and this pod is empty, this piston's going to fire. The reason we don't want it firing every time is because we don't want villagers that are just passing through to take damage. So what's going to happen is a villager's going to come through here. As soon as the villager in the cart hits this activator rail, the villager will pop out of the cart and the cart will keep going on its way. This delay in the repeater will make sure that the villager has landed in this spot before the piston fires, pushing him into the pod. So now I've built the redstone at the 3rd pod, and the reason is just so you can see how the redstone for the 2nd pod will squeeze in between them. What we're going to do is create an elevator. At this point, we're going to place some redstone dust here. Place a block there. Redstone torch here. We have to move it over so it doesn't interfere with this piston. Block on top. Redstone torch. Block on top. And then we're going to put a torch on either side of this block. Place a block here with some redstone dust. And that way that pressure plate in the 2nd pod is controlling this activator rail. Just like before, off the detector rail, we have a repeater set to 4 ticks. going into a block with an inverted torch on it, and we're just going to build our AND gate, just like we did down below. So this torch is being controlled by the pressure plate in the pod. Place a torch here, redstone dust along top, and then sticky piston in front of the torch. And block right there. And just to make sure that the villager doesn't escape in any way or tries to put him anywhere else, I'm going to put that block there just to help make sure the villager lands on this rail. So in that last part, I did make a bit of a mistake. This block right here needs to be a redstone torch, not a piece of redstone dust. But other than that, that should do it for the redstone. The other thing I did was make sure I ran blocks all the way around here just to make sure villagers can't escape through some sort of glitch. It'll keep them between these two pieces of block, these two rings. Also did the same down below. Basically make sure that the glass is completely surrounded by block except for where there's a chute that can be left open. Just to make sure the villagers don't hop out and end up out in the redstone area. So now let's test our rail, make sure the cart gets all the way around. Here's the ending of it. It should spit out here and fall back down here, which this is the start and feeds into the beginning. So we'll place a cart here. You'll hear the pistons fire as it goes all the way around. There they go. All the pistons are firing. Beautiful. And it comes back around and falls down onto that rail. Perfect. So now what we need to do is build the loading system that'll put the villagers into the trading post. All I've done right now is extend the input rail out a little bit. So it comes over to here. This block just happens to be dead center. Doesn't have to be just where I decided to put it. We have this little dip here. It's 3 blocks. This one's not powered. This one is. By this torch underneath. So what we need to do is a block there, there, there. 2 out here. Sticky piston facing in. 3 slabs. 2 blocks out, up 2, like that. Tripwire hook there. Block out. Up 2. Another tripwire hook. Going to connect those with some string. Here we go. Sticky piston on top facing in with a block on it. And now what we're going to do is build up from the sides just to make the chute. And we're going to make the top level with this block. Actually, we are going to put a block there too. Ring all the way around. And there we go. And the last piece is a piece of glass right here above this powered rail. Now to connect the redstone, first thing we're going to do is run... Let's see if we can get rid of that. It's not needed. Redstone from the tripwire hook to this piston on the back here. So 2 blocks back from this power rail that comes down on this slope, I've added a detector rail. We're going to build down from that. Add a little L shape like that, more redstone, and then a quick monostable circuit. So this is the basic shape of the monostable circuit if you've never seen one before. It runs into 2 blocks up. We'll actually need some dust up there. 3 blocks up with a space in between, block on the ground, 2 blocks up, and 1 block here. Now we build it underneath. We're going to put a repeater set to 2 ticks of delay. Redstone dust, torch up here, and a torch here. The monostable circuit will run into a 2-stage click counter. I haven't really come up with a better name for that, so I'm going to go with that as to what this is. Quick little loop like that. 3 by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There There we go. Right, like that. Repeater. Oops, no. Repeater set to 4 ticks. Repeater set to 4 ticks. Torch. Torch. Repeater again. 4 ticks facing out. Comparator. Comparator. Redstone dust between the two. And then connects to the output of the monostable circuit. 2 bits of redstone dust in front of it. Gonna clear this out to make it look a bit neater. Piston here. Piston here. Redstone there. So what this is gonna do is when this cart collects the villager, it's gonna hit this pressure plate on its way out, which will shift this block over. And then when it comes back, it'll shift it back. And what that's going to do is we're going to wire it up to this piston, which will control whether or not this chute is open. So it doesn't really matter what side you draw the power from, just that when the cart is in the ready position, I've ran it so that it goes up through this redstone elevator, and you want to make sure that this piston is not closing the little chute. If it is, just move the redstone block to the other side. Now, one thing I did forget to mention, on this piston, you want a repeater running into it at 2 ticks of a delay. What I've done here is run redstone from the tripwire hook down to this powered rail, and then put a repeater into this block that'll also power this power rail for a longer time, lengthening the amount of time that this power rail is on, making sure it's there long enough for the cart to slide down there, collect the villager, and slide back. Now, to get this thing ready, all you got to do is place a cart on this powered rail that's controlled by the tripwire hook. I'm going to drop a villager in the chute so you can see it in action. Villager falls in, hits the tripwire hook that sends the cart on its way. It grabs the villager, takes off, hits this detector rail, runs through the click circuit, closes the chute, and the cart runs around the entire length of rail. When it comes back and it hits that detector rail, it opens the chute back up for another villager. Now, the great thing about having this chute here is that while the cart is in motion, you can't put another villager into it. This makes sure that the system doesn't get all jammed up. But another time that we want this closed is when every stall is full or every pod is full. So what we're going to need to do is create a giant AND gate that connects all the pressure plates from every pod that signals this piston to close when there's a villager in every stall. As you can see here, we have the first part of the AND gate already in place. There's a villager in here. This is pod number 1. So this torch is off. This one's empty, so this torch is on. So here's our inverted input to the AND gate. All we need to do to create this AND gate is place a block here. And we're going to draw this torch's power out from this block since it already has redstone on top of it. So we just put a repeater there. And then for this one, all we got to do is a bit of redstone dust on top of this block, and just repeat the pattern all the way around. Now, if the redstone signal has to travel more than 15 blocks, it won't make it to the output of the AND gate, so just place a repeater between 2 inputs. It won't affect the function of the AND gate, but make sure if there's a torch here, make sure you're counting this part in your 15 blocks. So I've placed my output torch on the AND gate, which is just on the side. One quick note, you want to make sure all your repeaters face this torch. Then from that torch, built redstone up to the second block of the redstone elevator. And as it's all empty, the chute is open. Once it fills up, this should close. We have 1 pod left open. All the other ones are filled up. So this little area around the chute is to show where you can have a villager spawner, or you can just pipe them in from the iron farm that I made in a previous video. Anyway, we'll spawn one in, shove him into the chute. He gets taken away. And as you can see, the activator rail for this one that's empty is on. As soon as the cart comes by and it hits that activator rail, the villager pops out, the piston pushes the villager into the pod. And now all the pods are full, and the chute did not reopen. Now, of course, you are free to leave it like this, or you can decorate it however you like. Well, I hope this video helped you guys out. I hope you'll be able to use this in your own worlds. Little resource heavy, but still possible to do in survival. So, hope this helped you guys out, and until next time, guys, take it easy.